Michael,
Yeah.
what happened to our bank account?
I have been blind buying movies, and that's the topic of this video. What blind buying is, if you don't know, if you're not an industry insider or whatever, it means that you see a movie, you like the cover art, you don't know anything about it, you're going in blind, see, and then you buy it and you watch it, and sometimes you get filled with the sinking feeling of regret as the movie goes. You're like, shit, I really bought that, and now $40 is gone. That happened with Naked Lunch. I hate that movie, and I hate that I spent so much on it because I trusted you, David Cronenberg. I put my $40 on your name. Anyways, that's a topic for another video. But sometimes it works out really, really good, and when it works out good, that's when I have a top 5 for you. I'm going to show you top 5 films that end up working out really well. I'm glad I bought them. I'm glad I know about them. So some tips for blind buying. Don't 100% just buy based off the cover art, like it's the whole judging a book by its cover. Usually the way a movie looks is a lot cooler than the movie actually is. Also know, like, the filmmakers who made that movie, know your own taste. Like, all that's going to be a combination for usually a win. If you usually like what the filmmakers have done in previous films, the cast or something like that, the plot sounds good, usually you can trust that it's going to be a good blind buy. But every once in a while, it doesn't happen that way. So here's my 5 favorite blind buys that I've ever got. So the first one is Maniac. It's a Blue Underground release, and that's actually why I picked it up, was just because it's a Blue Underground, and I usually like the movies that they tend to pick to distribute. So that's another kind of tip with blind buying. If you usually like the distribution company, and it's like a boutique releasing kind of a place, like a Blue Underground, Screen Factory, Arrow, Criterion, anything like that. If your taste usually aligns with the movies that they license out, usually it's a pretty good call. And I actually ended up loving this movie. It's really cool because it's like a new take on a slasher movie. While other slasher movies kind of glorify the violence and like, oh yeah, he's he's chasing the blonde and he's gonna cut her up and all that, and it's gonna be fun and let's watch it and stuff. This isn't like that at all. It's like, it feels like a real like serial killer that you're watching, and it's actually really bothersome. So I would recommend it. It's really, really good. Actually, a couple fun facts for you. The guy who directed this movie, Bill Lustig, is actually the guy who founded and started Blue Underground. And then you guys know that song, "She's a maniac, maniac on the floor." That song was actually composed for this movie. That's why it's got like the horror synth and stuff and some of the lyrics. But it ended up being used for Flashdance, and they changed up the lyrics to be more about dancing than murdering. So that's your fun fact of the day. Wow! The next one I blind bought, and thank God I did, because this is out of print now. The Arrow release of Evil Ed. So the story behind this movie is I watch Cinemassacre's Monster Madness every Halloween. I obsess over that shit. And they released this. I had a little extra money at the time. I love the cover art. And I ended up seeing Cinemassacre's review of this movie, and all I needed to see was this one shot where a dude gets shot in the head and his face goes flying across the floor. And I was like, holy shit, I have never seen anything in a movie like that. And then I looked it up, and I found out the Arrow was releasing it like that week, and I was like, holy shit, let's do this. So I ended up buying it. I'm really glad I did. This movie's it's a lot of fun. It's like a horror comedy, super over-the-top gore. Also, this is a 3-disc edition, so it's got 2 Blu-rays and a DVD, one with the original cut, one with the director's cut. So it's cool packaging. My only thing against this is I wish it had a slipcover, but as far as my research has shown, and maybe you guys know something else, this was never printed with a slip, which is kind of a bummer. But this movie's really, really good. It's a lot of fun. Really good kind of horror comedy satire on the slasher genre. So I'd recommend that. This is like all gonna be horror movies because it's my taste, but I promise I wasn't trying to go for a theme here. But the next one is the Green Inferno. This is kind of almost a blind buy, but almost not. So basically what happened with this movie is, first off, look at that cover art. Like, Screen Factory really they did some work on that. That is nice. Anyways, neither here nor there. I ended up renting this movie, and I watched it, like, we got through like the first 20 minutes, and then it was all scratched up, and so it seemed like every time a scene was getting intense and gory, it would cut. Like, we almost got like this unintentionally censored version of the film. And that was really, really shitty. So technically it's not a blind buy because we watched the first 20 minutes, but now that I own it and I've been able to see it in all of its glory, I'm really happy that I have this. And it got kind of bad reviews when it came out. I really like Cabin Fever, Eli Roth's Cabin Fever, but I hate Hostel and Hostel 2. I think they're just really gross, and that's come from me. I love gore, but I just find those movies to be really gross. And this one actually was like a perfect amount. Like, it had the comedy that's in Cabin Fever and the gore that's in Hostel in like equal amounts to where it wasn't just disgusting and wasn't just stupid. So I actually thought this was a really, really good movie. I'd recommend watching it. I think it's a lot better than people give it credit for. My fourth pick is not a horror movie. Brawl in Cell Block 99. This movie is so good. Literally one of the best movies I've ever watched. I was so glad I bought this. I had been hearing stuff about the director, S. Craig Zoller. Right? Yeah, S. Craig Zoller. And super, super excited to like check out his movies because I heard he's kind of Tarantino-esque, and that's like my favorite filmmaker. So I actually found this at Walmart for $7 on 4K, and I blind bought it, and thank God I did. This movie is, if you haven't watched this movie, like cancel whatever movie you're planning on watching next and watch this instead because it's so good. I can only think of like one criticism that I have, and it's so petty, you can tell I'm reaching. I don't know, this movie's just great. I can't say that enough. Fucking awesome. Watch this movie right now. My last pick, again, it's a horror movie, and I'm really glad I got it because it's now out of print. Dolls. I got this because I love Stuart Gordon. He did Reanimator and From Beyond. And so I figured like, oh, it's a doll movie by Stuart Gordon. And then my wife was like, yeah, that cover art's really cool. You should buy it. And I was like, hell yeah, I'm going to buy this. And we ended up watching it that night. And this movie has such crazy good special effects with the dolls, like being animated and stuff. And like it's claymation, but it's not super cheesy claymation. It actually really works really well, I think. Especially being with dolls, like the claymation works because they're already supposed to be kind of in that uncanny valley. And so to have them moving in claymation, it lends itself really well. I think this movie's great. A lot better than people talk about it. So yeah, that's my fifth pick. You guys should watch all these movies and let me know what you think in the comments down below.